Здоров!
Hello, Hippo here. We're going to be going over another updated install guide for atmospherics as of the screen space shaders update 19. Atmospherics right now is 2.34 version, and things have changed. So as such, we have to do another install guide. I don't particularly enjoy these, but they're necessary. With that out of the way, let's get to what we need to install. First, I'm going to go over the Anomaly install guide, which should be very quick, and then we'll move over to the EFP install guide. So for the Anomaly install guide, you're going to need to install atmospherics. You click more over here, and then you'll go to click here, atmospherics anomaly download link. Right click, download. Okay. Enhanced shaders is very easy. Just click download over here. Beef's enhanced shaders, or beef shaders, download over here. Screen space shaders, download over here. We need the MCM, download over here. If you want to install Reshade, you click download, take it to the bottom, download Reshade 5.9.2 with full add-on support, download. And then if you, we need the modded Exes, and as such, when you're on this page, you click the releases, should be this one. You'll download Stalker Anomaly modded Exes 2024. You click that and it'll download. Okay, with that out of the way, let's go over the setup for what we need to install. This is a clean Anomaly instance. So let's get to what we need to install. Okay, so everything's already located on my desktop over here for what I'm gonna install. And let's go with the MCM first, actually, which should be, oh, where is the MCM? Yeah, right here. Okay, cool. All right. I'm just gonna do that. Install. Click this again. Now we're gonna install beefs. For beefs, we'll do beefs MVGs and then ES and SSR. Or no, actually, only ES, no SSR. So it'll be the first option, the fourth option. Click that. Install. We'll also install enhanced shaders. Enhanced shaders is change. We only need enhanced shaders PBR, correct cube maps, and fixed bloom, and optional shader param control symbol. Install that, enable. And then we'll need screen space shaders. You'll basically do everything except for SSR ice version. And keep going. We don't need this wind optional because atmospherics already controls the wind at the moment for each weather cycle. So these are all the options that you'll need. Just skip SSR water ice version and you'll skip wind optional vanilla emission. And that's it. Okay, enable that. And now you will also need atmospherics itself. So let's see. So for this one, I'm just gonna do the reshade as well, just to showcase how that works. And if you want, let's say, do any of Norfair's reshades or Frozex presets, or you want less thick fog, or if you want like slightly less lens flare for clear and partly weather, you'll install those. But at the moment, I'm just gonna go with the bare essentials and one optional. Click OK. It'll install. That's done. Atmospherics is done. Reshade we still need to do. Modded Exes still need to do. Beefs is done. MCM is done. Enhanced shaders and screen shaders is done. I'm going to install also ADEGA, which is in part 1 and part 2. And it's very simple. You just click that, ADEGA part 1. It'll install. It'll take some time. While that's doing its thing, I'm going to go ahead and go to my Anomaly instance and get that ready for some of the next steps that we'll be doing. Enable part 1, And then also I'll be doing part 2. It doesn't matter the load order for this, but I will fix the load order for this mod list, for the graphical mod list in just a minute. Let's see, it's loading, and it will install now. Okay, so load order wise, it will be enhanced shaders over here, beefs under, then screen space shaders update, the atmospherics, and then ADEGA can be anywhere as long as nothing is overwriting ADEGA. You'll get the like GTR textures plus other textures look. That's that for now. We'll keep that open. Now that we're in the Anomaly instance for vanilla Anomaly, open app data, delete shaders cache. First things first. Now we also need to install a reshade if you want to do that. That's fine. You click browse, you'll locate the instance for the anomaly that you want to manage, DirectX 11 AVX. Do that, next, skip, uncheck all, next, finish. And we'll go to bin over here. We'll delete Reshade Shaders folder because Atmospherics comes with its own Reshade Shaders folder in MO2. Delete that. Now that we're also here, when Reshade is done, we also need to install the mod Exes. We'll open that up, and we'll basically drag and drop everything over here into the instance like directory for Anomaly, like where Anomaly launcher.exe is. Drag and drop. It might say to overwrite some things. That's fine. Replace. We're good. As long as you deleted shaders cache over here, install Reshade the correct way, everything is done on this side. Mod Exes are done. ADEGA is done. And we can proceed to launch Anomaly in just a minute. But I'm going to launch Anomaly at the same time as we conclude the EFP installation because it's the same thing. So now we're going to move on to the EFP part of the installation, which for me, EFP is right here. I'm going to open that up. Things that we don't need beefs because we already have that. It's already in EFP. We don't need to overwrite it really. And we also don't need the MCM because there's already an MCM in EFP. Everything else you'll pretty much still need. So you'll scroll down until you get to the visual section. Let me maximize this for the time being. We're going to need to disable some things. Disable aggressors, disables enhanced shaders, disable anything enhanced shaders, disables nice reflections, disable any of old screen space shaders, and says anything that says ASIC 1457. Disable all of those because we're going to be updating screen space shaders to update 19. I'm pretty sure this is update 16. Disable optimized sunray shafts. I have an old instance of ADEGA over here. I'm going to delete that because I'm going to treat this as if it's a clean EFP install. But you won't have to worry about that. Everything else is fine. You can also disable Better Rain FX. I don't think it's super needed, but we can keep it enabled for the time being. And that should be everything that you need to disable. So now let's get some things installed. We need enhanced shaders. Same as before. Same options. Install that. And we can drag and drop this to where the visual section was, which should be right here. That's where we need to put it. Right, actually, it'll be right above beefs. Because the main thing is that the sky.ps needs to overwrite enhanced shaders from beefs. Or beefs need to overwrite enhanced shaders. Also, yeah, because let me look at this. When in conflict, files have no conflicts. That is fine. Okay, enhanced shaders is done. We need screen space shaders. Update 19. Pretty much everything as the anomaly version, or the vanilla anomaly version, except for the wind optional and the ice. And yep, that should be it. Cool. And we'll drag and drop that up top. It can go right under beefs. There you go. Screen share is done. Now we need to do this, which is the atmospherics anomaly, which is why we're all here. I'm going to do the same options as before. You can do any of the optional ones if you'd like as well. It will do its thing. We go up to the visual section right here, and atmospherics goes right under screen-space shaders. Atmospherics is done. I'm just going to also do ADEGA as well, just because we can get that out of the way really quick. And while that's opening, we can open your EFP instance for Anomaly, which for me is right here. And while you're here, might as well delete shaders cache, which is in the app data. And that's part 1 installed. Let's get part 2 installed as well before we move it all up together. And while that's doing its thing, it's installing some things. We delete shaders cache. We can go into the bin, and we can actually get out of the bin because we need to install the mod Exes. Same as before, as for the Anomaly instance, you'll drop it where the Anomaly launcher is. Drag and drop everything. Replace as directed. All right, that's the mod Exes done. And then now we'll do Reshade, since we're going to cover that really quick. Browse. We'll go into your EFP instance, which should be in bin, DirectX 11 AVX. Next, next, skip, uncheck all, next, finish. Now go into your bin, delete the Reshade shaders folder because Atmospherics already includes it. It should be clean. We already installed the mod Exes, app data is done, and so on. Now, while we can minimize out of that, we can also move both of these up to the visual section. Just keep things organized. Cool, that's enabled. This is the right load order that you need. Enhanced shaders, then beefs, then screen-space shaders, atmospherics, then ADEGA doesn't really matter. It's just a texture pack or texture repack. And that's that. I'm gonna go ahead and launch because we've already deleted the shaders cache and all of that. I'm gonna go ahead and launch, and I'll see you guys in just a sec. All right, now that we're in EFP, which should be the same thing for Anomaly, the first thing you'll do, and you'll only do this after every major atmospherics update that states that it needs it, you'll press the console and you'll type cfg_load amos, and that's it. That's only one that we have for regular like autumn-based texture packs or winter-based texture packs. If you are running a spring-based texture pack like Aydins Spring, you'll just do Atmos Spring. But since we're not running that, we'll just do Atmos. The console is right under the escape key. It's a tilde key. All right. With that out of the way, we'll also press home. And so there should be like some items that'll be like finish, continue, continue. Go through that tutorial. But the main things that you'll need to understand is that you need to go to settings and make sure the reshade shaders / these two symbols is there, and same for textures, and make sure this looks exactly like that. If there are other lines, make sure you press the minus sign and delete those other extra lines, but it should look like this. Also, another thing, go to edit global preposter definitions and make sure reshade depth input is reversed. Make sure this is set to 0. By default, I believe it should be set to 1. Make sure you set it to 0, click 0 or type 0. And click out of it, and it'll reload. That will set your depth buffer correctly, and that's how you'll know that Reshade is working completely well, especially if you're using things like MXAO or Glamoray and so on. And by default, Atmos R will look like this, but since I use TFAA, I will also always enable DRME, Launchpad, and TFAA. These all work together for TFAA and MXAO. If you don't see any Reshade presets over here, Atmos R, Atmos Body, you'll click the 2 dots over here. You'll go to your MO2 instance for EFP. You go to mods, then you'll find Atmospherics Anomaly should be, or Atmospherics EFP or Anomaly, and it should be at the top. I did realize I made a mistake and installed Anomaly version for EFP. The main difference between the Anomaly version and the EFP version is that the Anomaly version uses its own weather sounds for thunder, versus the EFP version just uses the stock ones. But if you use the EFP or Anomaly, it shouldn't matter. It should be very similar. And you'll just double click that, go to bin, and select Atmos R, and there you go. So with that out of the way, that's Reshade pretty much fully done. We'll go to the MCM menu. First things first is make sure Beefs MVGs has these settings, which should be the default settings for offset, threshold, and so on and so forth. Okay. Another thing that we'll also need to do is go to screen space shaders settings for the MCM. Make sure floor is like this. Click default. If it needs to, click apply. Rain, default. If it changes anything, click apply. And then wetness, same thing, default, click apply. Same for wet surfaces, default. We changed these two settings, click apply. And then wind, I don't really change anything over here. But other than that, that's the MCM. And as far as settings goes, I run the game in 1440p, DirectX 11 Enhanced. I only support that version. Borderless, these are my HUD settings. The settings, it's all personal preference, up to you and what your machine can handle. The main thing is that you'll need to pay attention to sun rays mode. It needs to be in volumetric or both. And SSAO mode needs to be in SSDO. Other than that, the rest is up to you. I'm sure you can optimize these settings way more than I have. Okay, with that out of the way, I'm gonna go load into the game and I'll see you guys in just a moment. All right, we're in game. I have the in-game sounds muted so you can hear me better. So if you've made sure that you've loaded CFG_load Atmos, it should look like this. Otherwise, spring, which is for spring, will look completely different. It'll be a lot more desaturated. Okay, so that's that. Some settings to keep in mind. If you want your game to be more desaturated, just open your console, type saturation. It'll be this. The default's 1.35. Let's say you want to do something more of like a dead zone look or anything like some of the other like desaturated mod packs. It'll be 1.1, and that'll be closer to that. I'm gonna do 1.35. Some other things, if you want to change the darkness indoors, like the ambient lighting, you'll type amp. It'll be sun loom scale amp. Default's 1.23. Let's say you want it darker, it'll do 1. The one thing to keep in mind is that this also alters the nights, like the indoor areas for nights. So make sure you don't choose a setting that's too dark. You can do defaults 1.23, that's how that looks, which I think is balanced for all the maps. And then if you want to do something that's even lighter, depending on your monitor, 1.43, and so on and so forth. I'm going to go back default. Let's also cover the, here, let me fly away for a second. Let's also cover the outdoor shadows. Okay. Let me go invisible so I don't get hit and get annoyed. Open your console, type Hemi. Default's 1.45. Let's say you want it to be a lot darker. 1. That'll make your shadows darker for all the weather cycles. 1.45 is default. Let's say you want it to be a lot lighter, depending on your monitor. 1.65, and so on and so forth, right? So we went over saturation, ambient. There are other settings, but those you can discover now. There's like settings like middle gray, which you'll see if I do like at 0.7. It's like a lot darker, but I'm gonna go back to 1.2. There are other settings as well, like low loom, which controls darkness and so on and so forth. But that's that. This is with reshade off versus reshade on. The difference is very slight now because we now use a LUT-based system from Screen Space Shaders Update 19, which was an item that I requested. And as such, reshade's completely optional except for like depth-based effects like that, MXAO, and so on. Aside from that, we've made sure that reshade works well. You've loaded in the correct settings. I guess one other thing that you might want to control. Let's say, here, let me go over here. Okay, let's say you think the sun is too bright, like how the sun illuminates objects. You'll open your console, you'll type sun, or you'll just type, I think loom scale, yep, it'll be this one, top one. Default's 3, which is the max. I've tuned everything to the max, but let's say you want it to be even darker, let's do 2.8, you know, a little bit dimmer. Let's do 2, a lot dimmer, and so on and so forth. You know, depending on what you like. You can cater atmospherics to yourself pretty easily. Let's say I want it to be not as dark or not as bright, and then I want it to be less saturated, 1.1. And now you have more of a like colder look, less saturated. But I'm gonna go back to the defaults, which I think work well for most things. And then the rest is really all up to you. If you guys have any questions, feel free to comment them down below. But besides that, you guys have a good day. I'm gonna go get shot by a helicopter. See ya.